What? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's interesting because my mom, for a long time, when you said not having the Christmas tree, I was like, ugh, because my mom, she wasn't a pastor, but she was the head of Christian education at the church that we went to, and like I think that I don't hate religion, but I don't know. I have serious like anger towards that church in particular. I don't know. It's weird because I know we didn't. The holidays weren't fun. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. I can't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's stressful, especially when you're part of a church leadership. But
is there a lot of Christians in Japan? Like
not in Japan. Japan is less than 1%. There's a lot of them in Korea. In Taiwan, there's a fair number, not as many as Buddhists and so on. But I think the Presbyterian Church is quite strong in Taiwan because they're part of the independence movement, against the for a long time monopoly party control, that was dictated by Chiang Kai-shek's policy. Right, these are the guys who fled China after the communists beat them in the Civil War. So, my dad was initially a Presbyterian. And he was editing newspapers, the first Christian newspaper, weekly newspaper in Taiwan. So he was a publisher. He did other things too. But I think he was very ecumenical. He was not bound by differences of sectarian differences. So, for example, he had a huge respect for John Paul II. There was always a poster of the Pope, in this Protestant minister's bedroom. So it's quite interesting.
That's kind of interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
When you were, I guess when you first went into class, I have a really good Taiwanese friend.
Oh, really?
And she's like older, so it's kind of sad actually. Her mom and dad, they lost everything when Mao took over, or when during the revolution.
Okay, so they're actually originally from China, right?
I think her mother is, but no, she's definitely Taiwanese.
Well, because a lot of the Chinese, see what happened was a lot of Chinese left China, and they came over to Taiwan, and that's when they set up the government. So in Taiwan, there was already people living there with a different dialect, and also there's indigenous people, just like the Native Americans here up in the mountains. So the original language of Taiwan was basically Taiwanese, and when the Mandarin, Han Chinese came, Taiwanese became a forbidden, verboten language. So I think you're talking about probably the Chinese, immigrants who came to Taiwan and became Taiwanese, right? Because they were the ones who ruled the government. You know what I'm saying?
So nothing like that ever happened in Taiwan?
Nothing like what?
Like communism didn't spread to Taiwan?
No. See, Chiang Kai-shek was an anti-communist, right? Chiang Kai-shek, who I think it was 1945, 47, after the Japanese, left Taiwan. Chiang Kai-shek in his military, these are the Han Chinese. Maybe your friend's family come out of that. They immigrated to Taiwan, and they became the ruling class. And the Taiwanese, the original indigenous Taiwanese, their language was again, just like under the Japanese, became something you can use. Because Chiang Kai-shek, forced everybody to speak Mandarin, which is Chinese, of course, and it was insane. I mean, he would just paint everything backwards because the communists did it the normal way, so he was going to oppose them in every sense. So he set up another despotic regime, and very much in comparison to China.
Good times.
Yeah.
It's so I think that's like the funniest thing about humans, like in general.
Yeah.
Is that like you fight so hard against something that's bad, and then all of a sudden, you're the one that's like, you've lost your mind and your sense of like what's right and wrong. I don't know. I think that's the whole point of Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence too. It's like at the end, they're like, the Japanese put all those guys, all the British guys to death, but then at the end, like all the Japanese guys are getting killed.
Yeah.
They put all the leaders to death because, yeah.
just kind of going back to writing, but is there any advice or suggestion you would give to people who are not particularly enthusiastic about writing, and also for those people who are struggling to be writers, but they have difficulty writing? Anything you would say to them as advice?
Find stuff that you like to read first, and read that, and then, I don't know, I don't think there's any like shame in trying to copy a writer's style. I mean, because you're not ever going to be them, so it doesn't matter what you do. But like, sometimes, like, emulating somebody else is the best way to learn something. So try copying their style, and when, you know, always ask somebody to read your stuff, and don't be offended if they say, wow, you need to work on this stuff, because, you know what, you probably do. Because, you know, I think most people are much better at reading than they are at writing. So just don't be hurt if somebody says, I think you need to fix this. Knowing how to take criticism is really important. But yeah, just copy other people and listen to what other people have to say, and don't ever stop like believing in yourself, because everybody can write, and people who think they can't, they just haven't practiced. You know, you can't write the great American novel in a day. So
thank you very much, Shelby Kennedy. And I really like the fact that you know, as the interviewee, you start to interview me. Because
because you're crazy.
What?
Because you're insane, and there's like so many questions that suddenly like, what's up with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like, I think like you're that teacher that I always knew I would eventually encounter in college.
Yeah.
And I was like, here it is. You're like the teacher that you see in all the movies. It's like, remember Dead Poets Society?
Oh my God.
And they're like, oh, Captain, my Captain. And
were you there last night?
No.
Oh, do you know what happened? I went up on stage at the end of the open mic, and people started to get up on the cafeteria table and said, oh, Captain, my Captain.
Are you
Everybody,
serious?
yes. I'm like, oh my God.
That's exactly it. You know, I hadn't seen that movie until like a year ago, and that's so funny.
Yeah, it's so funny you mention it, man. Like, so.
It's just that is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think somebody could write like a book about you or something like that.
You know what Karl Marx said when he was, I think, in his 20s? He said, the educator must be educated. So that's why I liked about the fact that you're asking me questions, because it forced me to think. You know, I think the best classes I've had to think on my own feet. And well, anyway, I think both of us have a lot to grow, develop, right?
Yes, indeed.
So many years to enjoy and appreciate. But
always got his time.
Yeah, it was so great talking to you.
It was nice to talk to you too. All right. Sweet.